the DAP on tap reframe technique for alcohol. So we're going to cover what is DAP, what is DAP on tap, what is a reframe, how to practice the technique, how to create and how to practice your own customized reframe, how to learn more alcohol reframe techniques, plus how to learn more about reframe techniques in general. So it should be a fun topic. I'm excited to do it because it's been quite a while since I've talked about reframes, and I don't think neither Chris nor myself have ever done a complete episode on reframes. So here you have it. If you've been thinking in the back of your mind, he needs to do an episode, the guys need to do an episode on alcohol reframe techniques or drug reframe techniques. Well, now you got your wish. And with that being said, let's get right into the training. In your mind, picture the word DAP. Capital D, capital A, capital P, DAP. And DAP rhymes with tap. You know what a tap is. You could tap, tap, tap your feet if you're a tap dancer. Or you could tap, tap, tappity tap the golf ball putt in. Just tap it in. Just tap, tap it in. Just tap it in. Just tap it in. Or you could go to a bar and order some beer that's on tap. You could get a soft drink on tap. If you put a lowercase e at the end of it, you would have tape. DAP is an acronym that stands for Disease Activation Poison, or another iteration of it, Disorder Activating Poison. A huge research study was just published online. I think I learned about this a few weeks ago, maybe 2 weeks ago. Yeah, this gigantic, massive meta-study, actually. And the main result from that was that they found that regular alcohol consumption has been associated with 61 plus diseases. Yeah, let that sink in. I always had an intuitive feeling about alcohol. I mean, this stuff, when you just drink a little bit here and there, then it's like, it is poison. It really is poison. So this is actually an accurate acronym. But I always knew it was highly unhealthy. But, if you just have a little bit here and there, irregularly, drink water in between and just don't drink that much, then it's, especially if you have a healthy lifestyle. For most people, it's not a big deal. But regular consumption, this is not a beverage that anybody should regularly consume. The research, all the different research over the past several years now that has come out, none of it's pointing to, weight loss and get better sleep or, have more polyphenol antioxidants or these kind of things. No, all these studies are alcohol is not safe. Alcohol is now associated with more than 60 diseases. And I read through that list. Oh, that's such a powerful alcohol reframe. Imagine going to the bar, and if they had to call it that instead of alcohol, instead of, Pabst Blue Ribbon, Budweiser, Heineken, Guinness. What if instead of all those brands and that it's called alcohol in general, what if it was called Disease Activation Poison? And there's a big, huge warning on it, this causes, if you drink more than this amount, if you're a man, or this amount in regularity if you're a woman, if you do more than that, this can lead to more than 60 diseases. So just be aware. And that's not even to mention hangovers, side effects, blackouts, doing things that we feel really irresponsible about, or we feel shame toward ourselves about, or guilt, or defeat, or that we're not worthy, or that we're pathetic, or that we're losers, or the opposite of that we're grandiose, that we're better than other people, that we're right, that we deserve, and we're full of pride. This is all low consciousness states of being right there. But when you get into acceptance and forgiveness, love and reason, logic, creativity, self-actualization, self-realization, growth, contribution, fulfillment, these are the types of things that can help us a lot here. Now, what is a reframe? There are actually two versions of that, and obviously I don't mean putting a picture or a photograph in a different frame, although I have reframed photographs and paintings in the past. This reframe is a frame or express differently, words or concepts or plan. to frame something again and often in a different way. Re-examine, rework, rethink, refashion, reevaluate are all synonyms for reframe. Here's an example. I used to, when I was in my severe alcohol addiction in my mid-20s, I went to a therapy session, and I had never been to psychotherapy before. And it was this male therapist who was absolutely horrible. He was looking down the whole time, and he was writing a lot of the time, but I don't think he was writing notes. I think he was just doodling. He was a horrible listener. He didn't have a lot of warmth. So there was like this awful experience. After getting up the courage, okay, I got a problem. Yes, I'll go see a psychotherapist and see what he says. And then I get this just awful therapist, just the worst. But I told him in either the first or the second session that I viewed ice-cold Budweiser glass bottles as the nectar of the gods, or the nectar of the gods and goddesses. I worshipped it. Not just ice-cold Budweiser bottles. Not just that. I loved alcohol in general, but just at the time in my alcohol addiction, it was summertime and it was hot out, and so that was my drink, ice-cold Budweiser in glass bottles. It was the nectar of the gods. So nowadays, and so I would often relapse when I would quit. I had this serious physical obsession craving that would be hard to go away, and then it would be intermittent, so it would go away sometimes. Say if my mind's occupied on something healthy, maybe I'm surfing, I'm definitely not thinking about drinking. Or maybe I go out to a really awesome sci-fi movie with a good friend, and I'm not thinking about drinking alcohol then. And I'm talking about, for example, someone in early alcohol recovery, and in my past early alcohol recovery attempts. So if someone was drinking a cold Budweiser or any kind of alcoholic beverage at the movie theater with me, and I'm looking at it, smelling it, seeing my friend drink it, then that's going to probably activate at least the thought of drinking, if not a desire or a stronger desire, or even a craving, or even a very obsessive physical craving, or a physical and mental emotional craving that is so powerful that all your defenses to alcohol are dissolved and just evaporate into nothing, and then you're left with no force field against alcohol, and we end up doing this thing that we didn't want to do. So it's hard to stay quit from alcohol when you view alcohol in such a positive light. So the way that my brain viewed alcohol, I thought it was so awesome. It helped me out so much with confidence and anxiety and depression and boredom and romance and dating and even more. It was creativity sometimes, making good peak experiences, adventures, memories. Alcohol was, I was so addicted to it. Mentally, physically, emotionally, oh my goodness. But nowadays, I view alcohol as disease activation poison. I don't want to drink it. I could give a rat's ass about drinking it. I never liked the taste to begin with. It always, from the very first time I drank it, it always seemed to be a substance that I was allergic to. From the very first time. And then my mom even told me that later on, maybe after a couple months actually, after my alcohol addiction became, not hideable anymore to my family. Yeah, she pulled me aside and said, we have in both sides of your family, Matthew, we have a lot of people, almost everybody, the majority, more than 50% of the family going back these last, to my grandparents, minimum, and all the aunts, uncles, cousins, all that stuff. A lot of people on both sides, again, with addiction and mental health issues, which oftentimes are like peanut butter and jelly. They kind of go hand in hand in this realm. And then as you grow out of addiction and heal from and recover from addiction, then we start to really forgive ourselves and accept ourselves that, wow, so much of this is genetic. They've found that at least 50% of it has to do with our genetics. That's why it's so common for people to get addictions or mental health issues when it's prevalent in their families, particularly, especially in both sides, but even if it's in one side of the family. And we're living in dopamine nation as well, where there's more and more things to hook us than ever before, and more stress and inflation and suffering and bad economy, and on a almost worldwide, pretty much worldwide scale, it's a different place than the pre-COVID lockdowns. Nonetheless, we can reframe alcohol, the nectar of the gods, or, something else, nectar of the goddesses, ultimate superhuman juice, or the kind of reminds me of one of my favorite cartoons when I was growing up called the Gummy Bears. I think that's what it was called. And they would drink this gummy berry juice, and it would give them super strength and super speed, and they'd be able to bounce around like crazy, their exponential strength gains instantly, but then it would wear off eventually. And that's kind of what alcohol was like for me back in my addiction. It was like my gummy berry juice, but it had lots of side effects, both short-term and long-term. And it was so hard for me to quit and then stay quit for so many years because of the way my brain viewed alcohol, the way I perceived it, my beliefs about it, how I thought and my feelings about it. It was part of my identity. People called me Whiskey Finch. I had a beanie hat that said alcoholics on it. And I remember being 24 or 25 and going into a AA meeting with that hat, that beanie on, and said alcoholics. And then one of the guys came up and pointed at it, and he goes, "I'm not sure if that's AA approved," jokingly, trying to get a laugh, and it wasn't that funny, but I'm not that funny either. And I appreciate attempts at humor, always. I watch a lot of prank videos on YouTube and comedy stuff too. Because I told you about, sunshine is one of my super vitamins. Laughter is too. Some of the best ones for me are sunshine and laughter, and those have been hard to come by for a while. So this last new phase of starting in basically end of June, oh man, this has been a whole new life with the sunshine. Now, I highly recommend to help you with this, if you have a issue with alcohol and if you want to either cut back or quit altogether or whatever your deal is. There's so many different people in the audience now. A lot of people in alcohol recovery, early recovery, some people in long-term recovery, but a lot of people in early recovery, a lot of people that are binge drinkers, a lot of people in the audience that are daily drinkers and physiologically and psychologically dependent. So they'll go through potentially severe and even potentially life-threatening withdrawal symptoms upon the immediate abrupt cessation of alcohol, so a cold turkey detox. A lot of people are on opioids or benzodiazepines, pharmaceuticals, but I know I'm like 99% positive that most of the audience is either issues with alcohol or opioids or other types of pharmaceutical pills or illicit drugs. And if you're wanting to reframe alcohol, I highly recommend just Googling alcohol 61 diseases, and then you'll see all the stuff that comes up. There's a nice list of articles and the actual study, and by reading some of this content and these statistics, by reading these, not just scanning them, but actually reading them, sit down with a morning cup of joe or a cup of tea, or go outside on the weekend on a sunny day and underneath a tree in the shade and read through this stuff, or if it's going to be tedious, put on some inspiring or some kind of hypnotic melodic beat music or whatever, and read this stuff, learn about all these different statistics on what they found with alcohol, particularly the newest research causing more than 60 diseases with regular consumption. Oh, it's just really eye-opening. Light bulb moment after light bulb moment. All of this stuff helps us to reframe alcohol, to change our brain's neuroassociations, to help us link less pleasure and positive benefits to alcohol and more negative consequences and pain to alcohol. And by linking more pain and negativity to it, bad things happen overall long term. When you link way more bad stuff to it, and lots more good stuff to it. That didn't sound too intelligent right there. Let me try that again. When your negative perception of alcohol significantly outweighs your positive perception of alcohol, that is what's most conducive to quitting and staying quit. For instance, if you, on a 1 out of 10 scale, if you associated to alcohol subjectively a 10 out of 10 negative consequences and pain to alcohol, and a 1 out of 10 pleasure and positive benefits to alcohol, that right there is the most empowering setup of neuroassociations to both quit and then to stay quit, outgrow it, transcend it, move on, what's next in life, right? You can create your own customized alcohol reframe technique as well if you don't like the viewing alcohol as disease activation poison. And the way to remember it is DAP on tap. That's an easy way just to remember DAP. DAP on, what is DAP on tap? Let me get some DAP on tap. Well, that's disease activation poison. Why would anybody have that on tap? Because it makes people feel good. Makes bad feelings go away most of the time. Makes good feelings come on most of the time. It's usually inexpensive, effective, fast-acting, dependable. So it's disease activation poison or disorder activating poison. People don't care because they either don't know or they do know and they still, it's a pros, cons, cost, risk, reward, cost benefit analysis subjectively for each person, consciously and or unconsciously. You might want to try to come up with something that works even better for you. The main point with alcohol reframe is that it works for you personally. This is a very subjective experience. There's going to be ones that more people than less people do well with, but we are all still unique. So if DAP on tap, disease activation poison on tap, if that doesn't help you to reframe alcohol, then write a list. On one side of the list of a sheet of paper, write all the pros from alcohol, and another side of the sheet of paper, write all the cons of alcohol. And the trick with this is to try to come up with at least 10, or not 10, at least 5 more, 5 to 1 negative to positive ratio. So come up with 10 things that you like alcohol for and 50 things that are negative about it, pros and cons. That can help you. What we're trying to do is change the way we think about, view, believe, feel, and associate with alcohol. So it's a mind, body, and even spirit intertwining of this alcohol beliefs that we have, etc. And how to practice your own customized alcohol reframe or the DAP on tap reframe. You could do a visualization exercise every single morning as part of your morning routine. You could wake up, drink some water, go to the bathroom, brush your teeth, drink some coffee, sit down with some cool music on, some good instrumental, relaxing music, maybe at a low volume, and then start to visualize. Close your eyes and breathe in and out rhythmically and deeply. Really relax, and then visualize alcohol as disease activation poison, and do whatever you can to just meditate on that. Or, for your own technique, meditate on the reframe of how you're now viewing alcohol. There might be one main attribute. There might be several main attributes with minor attributes. It could be a thing, a picture of something. This can be very esoteric and subtle if you want it to be. And then every time you come into contact with alcohol, or even when anybody brings up the topic of alcohol, you could start to articulate how you have framed alcohol and why, if you want to. It's up to you whether you like to disclose that type of information. And you could also learn more about alcohol reframe techniques by just going into good old search engine on the internet, alcohol reframe techniques. Or you could just research reframe techniques in general. The way to really change your relationship with anything like alcohol or drugs or smartphones or food is to reframe it. Because how we perceive it, according to the pain and pleasure principle, as will our behavior unfold.